In just 27 seconds, one of music's most beloved legends went from smiling graciously to storming off a television set in absolute fury. What started as a celebration of an iconic career turned into a shocking public meltdown that left the studio audience gasping and millions of viewers at home unable to look away. The Queen of Funk faced off against a talk show host who pushed way too far. And what happened next became the most explosive moment in daytime television history. If you want daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals and the confrontations everyone's talking about, smash that subscribe button right now. You won't want to miss what happens next in the entertainment world. Last night, Jennifer Hudson's talk show was supposed to be a moment of triumph. Chaka, the legendary singer known for hits like I'm Every Woman and Ain't Nobody, walked onto the stage wearing a stunning emerald green outfit that sparkled under the studio lights. Her signature voluminous hair bounced as she waved to the crowd, and the audience erupted in applause. This was meant to be a celebration, a conversation between two powerhouse voices in the music industry. Instead, it became a disaster that nobody saw coming. Jennifer Hudson greeted Chaka with a warm hug, and the two sat down across from each other on the brightly lit set. The studio audience was packed, phones already out and recording, expecting nothing more than heartwarming stories about Chaka's incredible 5-decade career. Jennifer started off sweet, complimenting Chaka's recent performances and asking about her latest projects. Chaka responded with grace, talking about her love for music and how grateful she felt for her fans who'd stuck with her through all these years. You know, Jennifer, I've been doing this since I was a teenager, Chaka said, her voice rich and warm. And every single day, I wake up thankful that I get to share my gift with the world. The audience clapped, and Jennifer smiled. But there was something in Jennifer's eyes, something the cameras caught, that suggested this wasn't going to stay pleasant for long. She leaned forward, her expression shifting just slightly, and asked her next question. Speaking of your career, Chaka, there's been a lot of talk lately about your performances. Some people online have been saying that maybe it's time to, take a step back, enjoy retirement. What do you say to those critics? The studio went quiet. You could feel the temperature drop. Chaka's smile faded just a little bit, and she tilted her head, clearly caught off guard by the question. Excuse me? Chaka said, her voice still calm, but with an edge creeping in. Critics saying I should retire? Jennifer nodded, not backing down. Yeah, there are videos circulating where people are commenting on your voice, saying it's not what it used to be. I'm just wondering how you respond to that kind of criticism. Chaka sat back in her chair, and you could see her jaw tighten. This wasn't a friendly conversation anymore. This was Jennifer basically telling a legend, right to her face, that people thought she was past her prime. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats, sensing that something was very wrong. Well, Jennifer, Chaka said slowly, choosing her words carefully. I've been performing for over 50 years. My voice has evolved, just like any instrument does with time. I don't really concern myself with what random people on the internet have to say about my talent. It was a classy response, the kind you'd expect from someone who'd handled decades of scrutiny. But Jennifer wasn't letting it go. Sure, but don't you think there's some validity to it? When you're a singer, your voice is everything. And if it's not hitting the same notes anymore, isn't that something worth addressing? The audience gasped. Someone in the front row literally put their hand over their mouth. Jennifer Hudson, who'd been helped and mentored by so many legends in the industry, was sitting here disrespecting one of the greatest voices of all time. Chaka's expression hardened, and her eyes narrowed. Are you seriously sitting here, on your show, telling me that my voice isn't good enough anymore? Chaka asked, her voice rising slightly. Is that what this interview is about? Jennifer held up her hands defensively. I'm not saying that, Chaka. I'm just asking the questions that people want answered. It's my job as a host to have these tough conversations. Tough conversations? Chaka repeated, her voice dripping with disbelief. No, sweetheart. A tough conversation would be asking me about the challenges I've faced in this industry, about how I've had to fight for respect my entire career. This is just disrespectful. The tension in the studio was unbearable. Jennifer's producers off camera were making frantic hand gestures, clearly trying to signal her to move on to a different topic. But Jennifer ignored them. She seemed determined to push this narrative, as if she was trying to create a viral moment for her show. What she didn't realize was that she was about to get exactly that, but not in the way she wanted. "I think you're being a little sensitive," Jennifer said. And the moment those words left her mouth, everyone knew she'd made a massive mistake. Chaka Khan sat up straight, her eyes blazing. "Sensitive? You invite me onto your show. You smile in my face, and then you insult my talent on national television, and I'm being sensitive?" Jennifer tried to laugh it off, but her laugh sounded forced and nervous. "Chaka, come on. I'm not insulting you. I'm just keeping it real. You know how this business is. People talk, and sometimes we have to address what they're saying." "Who are these people?" Chaka demanded. "Show me these people who are so concerned about my voice. Because from where I'm sitting, I still sell out shows. I still have fans who travel across the country to see me perform. So who exactly are you speaking for?" Jennifer shuffled her note cards, clearly flustered. "I'm just saying what's been reported. There have been reviews, articles, social media posts." "Social media posts?" Chaka interrupted, her voice getting louder. "You're basing your questions on social media posts? Jennifer, I've won 10 Grammys. I've influenced generations of artists, including you. And you're sitting here acting like some random person with a Twitter account has more credibility than my actual body of work?" The audience started murmuring, and some people were nodding in agreement with Chaka. This was going completely off the rails, and Jennifer was losing control of her own show. She tried to regain her composure, straightening up in her chair and putting on her professional face. "Look, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm trying to say," Jennifer said, her tone becoming slightly defensive. "I have nothing but respect for you and your legacy. I'm just trying to have an honest conversation about where you are in your career right now." Chaka leaned forward, pointing her finger at Jennifer. "Don't you dare try to flip this around. You knew exactly what you were doing when you asked me that question. You wanted a reaction, you wanted drama for your show, and now you've got it." Jennifer's face flushed. "That's not fair, Chaka. I'm a professional. I ask tough questions to all my guests." "Really?" Chaka shot back. "So, when Beyoncé sits in this chair, do you ask her if she should retire? When Mariah Carey is your guest, do you question whether her voice is what it used to be? Or is this treatment reserved specifically for me?" The implication hung heavy in the air. Chaka was calling out what many in the audience were already thinking. This felt personal, and it felt targeted. Jennifer's eyes widened, and she shook her head vigorously. "No, that's not what this is about at all. You're twisting my words." "I'm not twisting anything," Chaka said firmly. "I'm calling it exactly what it is. You invited me here under the pretense of celebrating my career, and instead, you're trying to tear me down for ratings." Jennifer stood up from her chair, clearly agitated now. "You know what? I don't have to sit here and be accused of things that aren't true. I work hard on this show, and I treat every single guest with respect." Chaka stood up too, matching Jennifer's energy. "Respect? You call what you just did respectful? Girl, you've got a lot to learn about what respect actually means." The studio audience was completely silent now, watching this confrontation unfold like they were witnessing a car crash. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of this heated exchange. Jennifer's team was probably screaming in the control room, but there was no stopping what was happening on that stage. "Maybe you're just upset because you can't handle criticism," Jennifer said, and immediately, you could see she regretted it. Her face changed, realizing she'd just made things exponentially worse. Chaka's mouth dropped open. "Did you really just say that to me? To me? I didn't mean it like that," Jennifer stammered, but it was too late. "No, you meant exactly that," Chaka said, her voice shaking with anger. "You think because you've had some success, because you've got a talk show, that you can sit here and judge legends? You think you've earned the right to question my career?" Jennifer tried to respond, but Chaka wasn't finished. She was on a roll now, and decades of industry frustrations were pouring out. "I was performing on stages before you were even born, Jennifer. I've forgotten more about this business than you'll ever know. And you have the audacity, the absolute nerve, to sit here and suggest that I should retire? That my voice isn't good enough anymore?" "That's not what I said," Jennifer protested weakly. "It's exactly what you said," Chaka shouted, and several audience members jumped at the volume. "You can try to dress it up in pretty words, but I know exactly what you were implying." Jennifer's publicist rushed onto the stage, whispering urgently in Jennifer's ear, probably telling her to apologize, to fix this somehow. But Jennifer's pride seemed to be getting in the way of her better judgment. Instead of backing down, she doubled down. "I think you're overreacting," Jennifer said, and the publicist's face went pale. Chaka let out a bitter laugh. "Overreacting? Is that what you tell every guest who calls you out on your bullshit?" The audience gasped at the curse word, but honestly, most of them seemed to be on Chaka's side. Jennifer looked around, seeming to realize for the first time that this wasn't playing out the way she'd planned. "Chaka, please, let's just sit down and finish the interview," Jennifer said, trying to sound calm but coming across as condescending. "We can move past this." "Move past this?" Chaka repeated incredulously. "You think I'm going to sit here and let you continue to disrespect me on television? You must be out of your damn mind." Jennifer's face hardened. "Fine. If that's how you want to be, then maybe we should just end this interview right now." "Oh, now you want to end it?" Chaka said, throwing her hands up. "Now that you've gotten your viral moment, now that you've tried to humiliate me in front of millions of people, now you want to call it quits?" "I never tried to humiliate you," Jennifer insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. Everyone could see what she'd done, including her. Chaka shook her head in disgust. "You know what the saddest part about this is? I actually looked forward to coming on your show. I thought we could have a real conversation, two women in the music industry supporting each other. But instead, you chose to be messy. You chose ratings over respect." Jennifer opened her mouth to respond, but Chaka cut her off with a raised hand. "Save it. I don't want to hear any more excuses or half-assed explanations. I've been in this industry long enough to recognize fake when I see it." The tension reached a breaking point. Jennifer, perhaps feeling cornered and embarrassed, made her worst decision yet. She turned to her audience and said, "Well, I guess some people just can't handle honest journalism." The audience booed. Actual boos filled the studio, directed at Jennifer Hudson. Chaka's eyes went wide with shock, and then narrowed with fury. "Honest journalism?" Chaka said, her voice dangerously quiet. "You think what you did here was journalism? Jennifer, this wasn't journalism. This was a hit piece, disguised as an interview, and you should be ashamed of yourself." Jennifer's face turned red, and you could see anger mixing with embarrassment. "I don't have to stand here and listen to this. This is my show." "You're absolutely right," Chaka said, already reaching down to unclip her microphone. "This is your show, and I'm done being a part of it." Jennifer seemed to panic, realizing that Chaka was actually about to leave. "Wait, Chaka, we're in the middle of taping." "I don't care," Chaka interrupted, pulling the microphone off completely and setting it on her chair. "I'm not staying here another second." Jennifer made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. "If you walk off this stage right now, it's going to look really bad for you." Chaka stopped and turned around slowly, fixing Jennifer with a stare that could cut through steel. "Look bad for me? Jennifer, the only person who looks bad here is you. You invited a legend onto your show and treated her like garbage. That's on you, not me." "I was just doing my job," Jennifer said. But even she didn't sound convinced anymore. "Your job is to interview people, not to insult them," Chaka fired back. "And if you can't tell the difference between the two, then you have no business hosting a talk show." The audience erupted in applause, clearly showing whose side they were on. Jennifer looked stunned, glancing around at her own audience cheering for the guest she'd just disrespected. Her producers were making frantic signals from offstage, probably telling her to apologize, to do anything to fix this disaster. But Jennifer's pride wouldn't let her. Instead, she crossed her arms and said, "Fine, leave then, but don't expect to be invited back." Chaka laughed, a real genuine laugh that somehow made the moment even more intense. "Invited back? Jennifer, you couldn't pay me enough to come back on this show. I'd rather retire from the music industry entirely than sit in that chair again." With that, Chaka Khan turned on her heel and walked toward the exit. The studio audience gave her a standing ovation, clapping and cheering as she made her way off the stage. Some people were even whistling and shouting words of support. Chaka didn't look back, didn't wave, didn't acknowledge the applause. She just walked with her head held high, her dignity intact despite everything that had just happened. Jennifer stood there in the middle of her stage, watching as one of the biggest legends in music walked out of her show. The cameras captured her face, a mixture of shock, anger, and what might have been regret. She tried to address the audience, opening her mouth to speak, but the words seemed to catch in her throat. "Well," Jennifer finally managed to say, her voice barely audible over the continuing applause for Chaka. "That was unexpected." But the audience wasn't having it. The cheering for Chaka slowly transformed into uncomfortable murmuring, directed at Jennifer. People were shaking their heads, some were getting up to leave, and others were already on their phones, no doubt posting about what they'd just witnessed. Backstage, you could hear Chaka's voice, though the words weren't clear. She was talking to someone, probably her team, and she did not sound happy. The energy in the entire studio had completely shifted. What was supposed to be a feel-good episode celebrating an icon had turned into a PR nightmare for Jennifer Hudson. Jennifer tried to continue, attempting to transition to a commercial break, but her voice was shaky. "We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back..." But she was cut off by more murmuring from the audience. Someone shouted, "That was messed up," and others agreed. Jennifer's face went from red to pale, and you could see the reality of what she'd done starting to sink in. The stage manager rushed out, trying to calm the audience and get things back under control, but the damage was done. Chaka Khan, the legendary Queen of Funk, had walked off the Jennifer Hudson show after being disrespected and insulted by the host herself. And every single second of it had been captured on camera. As Chaka pushed through the backstage doors, you could hear her say one final thing to someone on her team. "I can't believe she thought that was okay. I can't believe she actually thought she could speak to me like that." And with those words, Chaka Khan exited the building, leaving behind a studio full of shocked audience members, a frantic production team trying to figure out how to handle this disaster, and a host who just learned a very hard lesson about respecting legends. The doors closed behind her, and just like that, one of the most explosive confrontations in talk show history was over. Jennifer stood alone on her stage, the bright lights suddenly feeling much hotter, the silent cameras much more judgmental, and the weight of what she'd done much heavier than she ever could have anticipated.